So folding knives generally make more sense than fixed blades for everyday carry. They not only tend to be shorter in overall length, but the fact they pretty much fold in half makes them way more compact and pocketable. When they're designed specifically for EDC, however, some fixed blade knives can actually be incredibly conducive to everyday carrying. These EDC specific models are typically small enough to be comfortably daily carried, while still being large enough to offer real utility. Plus, fixed blade knives have their own unique strengths and advantages, from not needing to be opened and always having their blade at the ready, to offering much better overall strength and structural integrity, to being easier to clean. So, today, we've carved out the time to show off our favorite fixed blade knives for everyday carry. GiantMouse's GMF1 is widely regarded as one of the best fixed blade options for everyday carry, and this is for a multitude of reasons. Coming in at 5.4 inches overall, the knife is constructed from a single piece of Bowler M390 steel and doesn't have any scales, liners, or other elements whatsoever. The design features a 2.6-inch drop point blade that's fairly compact yet just big enough to afford some actual utility. It also has a ridiculously sharp factory edge. At nearly 1/5 of an inch thick, the knife is incredibly strong and wouldn't really have any issues taking on hard-use tasks, at least if its handle was a little bit bigger. The handle only clocks in at 2.8 inches, allowing you to achieve a solid 3-finger grip. Between the contours and the handle and the jimping on its spine and the bottom of the tang, the GMF1 manages to afford pretty excellent grip for a knife of this size, which is no doubt one of the reasons it's become so popular. To really unlock the handle's full potential, you do have to wrap the thing in paracord or fit it with some aftermarket scales. We've opted to fit it with these leather scales from Oak City Leather Supply, but the immense popularity of the GMF1 has ultimately given way to a pretty robust range of aftermarket upgrades from sheaths to scales, plus GiantMouse also sells an available Kydex sheath. Designed by Jens Anso and Jesper Voxnes, the knife is made by hand in Italy, and even though it's essentially just a single piece of alloy, its overall craftsmanship still looks pretty great. It also ships with an included sheath that's made in Italy from Italian leather. GiantMouse's GMF1-FS, the M390 version that we tested, is also incredibly versatile, lending itself to just about any task you can imagine, from outdoor to self-defense to EDC. Lastly, while it doesn't actually have an impact on its performance, the GMF1-FS is also just a great-looking knife. At $185, it admittedly doesn't offer the best value or bang for your buck, but this is honestly one of the few downsides to this knife. It can also be a little uncomfortable in hand, though adding a set of scales really helps here. It's also worth mentioning that GiantMouse produces the GMF1 in more affordable variants, including a Bowler N690 version, plus more recently they came out with a larger XL spec spanning 6.5 inches overall and coming fitted with either brass or micarta scales. Since its inception in 2009, Big Idea Design has built a name for itself on the strength of its minimalistic yet utilitarian EDC gear designs. With an already pretty expansive catalog, it was just a matter of time before BID delivered its own minimalist take on an everyday carry fixed blade. Dubbed the TI Lookout fixed blade, the knife spans 6.2 inches overall, roughly 4 inches of which is comprised of the handle. Like the rest of the tang, the blade is made from top-shelf Bowler M390 and features a somewhat clippy drop point profile or a droppy clip point or whatever you want to call it. While it's also offered in versions with black G10, Tigerwood, micarta, or Ultim scales, we tested the brand's top-of-the-line titanium scaled version. The spine of the blade has jimping that adds a ton of grip without being overly rough on the thumb. The TI Lookout has pretty decent ergonomics for a knife of this size, with the handle being just long enough for you to wrap all 4 fingers around. Though they look great, the titanium scales don't really offer much in the way of grip, though the G10 and micarta versions don't share this issue. The ergonomics do help you ultimately get a decent grasp on the thing, though I'd still have some reservations about using it for genuine hard-use tasks. With that said, it's perfectly fine for 95% EDC applications, and at 0.12 inches thick, it's not the beefiest knife, but the tang is still robust enough that we wouldn't really worry about it ever snapping. Build quality on this knife is just top-notch. The scales and tang line up perfectly everywhere, and the hardware sits perfectly flush. Speaking of the hardware, Big Idea Design also utilizes hardware on the bottom of the knife that's drilled out in the center, allowing it to double as a lanyard hole while still being completely functional. I also really like how the blade is devoid of branding, the only mark on the entire thing being a tiny M390 stamp at the very bottom of the tang. This furthers the already Spartan-looking knife's minimalistic aesthetic. The factory edge on this thing is also excellent. The thing diced through paper like nothing and could even slice through paper towel rolls with the same ease. Its design language also matches the rest of the brand's stuff, and that's definitely a good thing, as Big Idea Design has always delivered really good-looking products. We genuinely really like this knife and thoroughly enjoy daily carrying it, though a huge part of the stellar overall user experience it offers is owed to its sheath, or more specifically its sheath's pocket clip. The custom Kydex item that the Lookout ships with comes fitted with a titanium pocket clip with a ton of retention thanks to a practically non-existent gap between the hook and base of the clip. Whether carried inside or outside the pocket, this allows you to clip the thing to your pants or brim of a pocket. When you go to pull the knife out of the sheath, it actually stays put and doesn't drag the sheath out with the knife. I know something working as intended shouldn't be a big deal, but in our experience, most fixed blade pocket clips don't actually provide enough retention to keep the sheath in your pocket when you attempt to deploy the knife. BID's sheath also has rivets with standardized spacing, so you can still mount an ulti-clip or whatever other kind of mounting hardware you want to run. Penned by Alan Foltz, the CRKT Minimalist is a compact EDC-specific fixed blade that punches well above its weight. The knife measures 5.2 inches overall and features a full-tang 154cm construction set between a pair of grippy micarta scales. CRKT does make a markedly cheaper 5CR15 MOV and G10 version, though it's hard not to gravitate towards the more premium 154cm spec. The Minimalist features a super versatile and utilitarian drop point profile that allows it to excel at a huge range of tasks. One of the aspects that makes this knife so special in our eyes is its size to grip ratio. Though the handle only spans around 3 1/8 inches in total, it has a trio of ultra deep finger grooves that allow you to get an incredibly good grip on the knife despite just being a 3-finger handle design. We'd actually argue its ergonomics and grip are superior to that of several larger knives we tested, which actually says quite a bit. It just feels really natural in hand and inspires a ton of confidence when using it. The bottom of the handle also features a lanyard hole that comes pre-fitted with the braided paracord lanyard that makes it a lot easier to fish out of your pocket. Thanks to its concealability and incredible grip, the Minimalist can also handle everything from workhorse applications to regular EDC to even self-defense use. The factory edge on the Minimalist is also a lot better than we anticipated. Sure, it's not quite as razor sharp as some of the more premium knives we tested like the Vero, Axum, or Benchmade Dacian, but it's still a solid 3.5 out of 5 in our book. Our biggest issue with this knife is unquestionably its blade thickness at 0.11 inches, as this really limits the Minimalist hard use capabilities, which is a shame because it would otherwise be able to tackle harder use applications thanks to the incredible grip that its handle provides. We also wish CRKT sold the 154cm version of the Minimalist with a hard sheath instead of the leather sheath that it comes from, as hard sheaths are typically a lot more conducive to everyday carrying. Fortunately, we did have one of the hard sheaths from the 5CR15 MOV version from a previous guide we did, so we were able to equip it with that during testing and, as you can see, during filming. Over the years, Benchmade has produced hundreds of different knives, ranging from daily workhorse models to outdoor and survival style fixed blades to daily carry folders like the Osborne and Bug Out. For one of its latest releases, the Oregon City outfit has taken these various genres and rolled them into a single creation with the Benchmade Dacian. The Dacian is pieced together around a 0.12 inch thick full-tang construction brought to life in Crucible Industries' revolutionary CPM MagnaCut. This steel allows the knife to deliver excellent hardness, corrosion resistance, and edge retention, all while being much easier to sharpen than other high-end steels like M390 or 20CV. We wouldn't mind if the tang and blade were a bit thicker, but at 0.12 inches, we're still comfortable subjecting it to hard use applications. Helping to bolster both grip and control, especially for more delicate use tasks, is jimping that runs the entire length of the spine, allowing you to choke up all the way to the tip. There's also some extra jimping at the very base of the handle as well. It's also pieced together using a bespoke set of bronze anodized hardware, and the hardware at the bottom of the handle incorporates an integrated lanyard hole. This full-tang construction ends with a 3.54 inch long clip-point blade that makes the Dacian exceptionally versatile, as the thing can pierce, slice, cut, or slash with incredible efficiency. The handle on the Dacian is also damn near perfect. Above and beyond looking great, it fits in the hand perfectly and provides a ton of grip whether carried normally or in a reverse grip. There are also grooves and a depression at the center of the handle that allows your fingers to fit it perfectly. This Benchmade's next-level ergonomics are owed to the design being highly calculated and finely tuned. The denim micarta scales are somewhat smooth and would almost certainly benefit from a bit of added texturing. Even without the added traction from the micarta, the ergonomics still manage to do all the heavy lifting in the grip department. And, like you'd expect from a Benchmade, this USA-made fixed blade boasts phenomenal craftsmanship and build quality. Like Vero Engineering's Axum, the Dacian is slightly larger than what you'd normally want for EDC, but we'd argue it more than makes up for its lack of pocketability by affording far more utility than smaller EDC fixed blades. While we appreciate it being ambidextrous and accepting the blade in either direction, we were still pretty disappointed with the Dacian's hard polymer sheath, as it just feels a lot cheaper and less well crafted than the rest of the knife. Plus, we can only actually get the knife to click in about half the time. More importantly, if the sheath is clipped to a pocket and then the knife is drawn, it would yank the entire sheath out with the knife still in it, rather than the sheath remaining put and just the knife coming out. What's more, the knife comes at a fairly steep price, requiring you to pay the proverbial Benchmade tax, though its price does include a lifetime warranty and Benchmade's LifeSharp services, which will clean, tune, and resharpen your knife for free for life, with you only being required to pay postage. In late 2021, CIVIVI introduced what's now one of its most popular knives to date with the Baby Banter. More recently, the company introduced the world to a rigid take on this fan-favorite design, resulting in the Baby Banter fixed blade. Measuring 5 inches even, around half an inch shorter than the folding Baby Banter, it maintains the same basic handle design, blade shape, and Nitro V steel as its folding counterpart. Interestingly, despite being around half an inch shorter, the fixed blade version's blade is a tad longer than the folder, though only by 0.05 inches. What's more, its blade is also noticeably thicker than the folder's at 0.12 inches. CIVIVI also put an excellent factory edge on the knife that's on par with some of the much pricier knives that we tested for this story. The knife's full-tang Nitro V construction comes sandwiched between a set of hard-wearing micarta scales that both look and feel great, being not too rough on the hands, but still plenty grippy. With the pocket clip no longer there, the lanyard hole has been moved to the center of the bottom of the handle as well. CIVIVI also ships the knife out with a braided paracord lanyard that makes it markedly easier to fish from your pocket. Another cool nod to the folding version is the fixed blade Baby Banter's upper hardware, which mimics the look of a CIVIVI C-logoed pivot collar on its show side. Though its handle is only 2.6 inches long, the base of the blade has a massive choil lined in jimping that acts as a finger cutout, allowing you to get a much better grip. Even with this additional space, we could still only get 3 of our fingers wrapped around the handle, leaving our pinky just behind it. There's also jimping at the base of the spine running about halfway up, and then another small series of jimping just behind the tip of the blade. The knife arrives in a box with a hard sheath fitted with a belt loop attachment, as well as a chain that lets you wear it as a neck knife. 4 vertically stacked rivets in the sheath also allow for other mounting and carrying options, such as running an ulti-clip or ultimate belt attachment. In typical CIVIVI fashion, the build quality on display here is fantastic, especially for the price. It really is indistinguishable from anything coming from WE. The drop point profile makes the Baby Banter fixed blade particularly versatile and thoroughly utilitarian. Also typical of CIVIVI is how this EDC capable fixed blade is being sold at a super reasonable price that gives it plenty of bang for your buck. Though its size makes it plenty conducive to EDC, its 5-inch overall length definitely limits its hard use capabilities, and also makes it a much less effective self-defense weapon. Having said that, it stood up to pretty much every task we threw at it during the time we spent testing it. Typically speaking, there's a bit of a trade-off that exists when dealing with EDC fixed blades. Smaller models are more pocketable and easier to conceal, though they lack the utility of larger EDC fixed blades. And while we're not entirely sure how the company has actually pulled it off, the Bradford Guardian 3.2 manages to offer the best of both worlds, being extremely functional, versatile, and utilitarian, while still being compact enough to easily lend itself to daily carrying. Measuring 7 1/8 inches, the Guardian 3.2 boasts a 0.14 inch thick full-tang M390 construction, culminating in a 3.5 inch drop point profile with a crazy sharp factory edge. Thanks to the choice of blade steel, this scalpel-esque edge can be retained for long periods, though it isn't the easiest to sharpen once the time finally does come to do it. The 3.2's tang comes sandwiched between a pair of sculpted micarta scales set over a 4-finger handle design, with a large choil just before the blade that acts as a finger groove. This setup provides an insane amount of grip and allows it to be conducive to everything from outdoor and survival use to self-defense to basic daily carrying. Put simply, it just feels fantastic in hand and really does inspire a ton of confidence. Made in America on a built-to-order basis, the Guardian 3.2's build quality is pretty great too. We also love how many ways this knife can be configured, as a slew of different handle materials, blade steels, and finish options allow it to be set up in more than 300 different ways in total. Benefiting from ample customer feedback over the prior gen Guardian, this updated version of Bradford's flagship fixed blade ships with a leather sheath as standard. While the sheath exhibits the same stellar craftsmanship and attention to detail as the knife, it limits your carrying options to just horizontal belt carrying, or scout style. Fortunately, Bradford does sell an available Kydex sheath, albeit as a separate standalone item, not an upgrade. We don't love that the knife is pieced together using a pretty unusual dual-prong hardware set that I imagine most people won't have a bit set that's compatible with. Considering everything that you get for less than $200 here, from its premium M390 construction to its meticulous manufacturing, we'd argue this knife actually offers pretty great value too. It's not cheap by any means, but you're definitely getting what you're paying for. If we wanted to convey to someone what an archetypal example of an EDC-specific fixed-blade knife is, we'd probably show them the WESN Bornas, as it's the epitome of everything that a good, rigid, everyday carry knife should be. Sporting a sleek, modern, Scandinavian-inspired design, the Bornas measures just under 6 inches in total. 2.75 inches of this is taken up by its ultra-utilitarian drop-point blade. Made in Sweden, the Bornas features a compact, 3-finger handle design with a pronounced finger groove for your trigger finger. Though our pinky couldn't wrap around the knife, it's able to rest just behind the handle, providing a bit of extra grip and control, especially when driving, piercing, or thrusting the knife into an object. Measuring 0.108 inches thick, the Bornas' full-tang construction is composed of CPM S35EN powder metallurgy blade steel. With its solid edge retention and relatively easy sharpening, the Crucible's S35EN is unquestionably one of the best EDC blade steels out there right now. This Crucible steel comes set between a pair of G10 scales that are decently grippy without being too rough on the hands. WESN also produces the Bornas with rosewood or curly birch scales and gives the choice of being paired with either a leather sheath or a Kydex unit. The bottom of the tang also has an integrated lanyard hole that pokes out just beyond the scales, while the spine of the blade features some light jimping at its base for increased control. Though it's just a sheath material and handle construction, these details can still hugely alter the overall feel and appearance of the knife. The combination of G10 scales and the pronounced finger groove also go a long way in terms of allowing the thing to afford good grip despite using a 3-finger handle design. Like every other knife that we've ever used from WESN, the Bornas boasts what can only be described as heirloom-grade craftsmanship. The build quality is just superb and the factory edge is legitimately razor sharp. While these factors make it perfect for everyday carry duties, the Bornas' compact, sub-6-inch overall length and 3-finger handle prevent it from lending itself to hard-use applications, despite having no problem whatsoever performing normal everyday cutting tasks. And this is obviously the lens that fixed-blade EDC knives should be viewed through, which is why the WESN Bornas has received such high marks during our testing process. WESN also stands behind this knife with a lifetime warranty as well. There are very few brands that can deliver legitimately great-looking designs that are also completely functional better than Vero engineering. For proof of this, look no further than Vero's Axum fixed blade. Clocking in at 8.1 inches from butt to tip, the knife is crafted around a 0.14-inch thick, full-tang construction forged in top-shelf Bowler M390. The version we tested sports a set of marbled carbon scales and a belt satin finished blade. A rigid version of Vero's existing Axum folder, the Axum fixed blade features a sheep's foot profile with a dead straight edge that makes it a great chopper as well as a great looking knife in general. It's also just pokey enough to have no problem piercing open packages or carrying out any other EDC tasks. Its generous size and thickness also allowed this knife to easily stand up to actual hard use tasks, plus its handle is big enough to provide a fantastic grip. The jimping at the base of the spine is incredibly effective, though it can be a little rough on your thumbs. The knife is also devoid of any branding on the blade, save for a small Vero logo on the spine and its production number. It also ships with an almost irresponsibly sharp factory edge. The Axum also has an unmistakably top-shelf feel to it, with the fit and finish on display being just stellar. It's also abundantly clear that the thing benefits from boutique small-batch production. Also, despite having a somewhat fancy look to it, the knife is utilitarian through and through. Just like with Big Idea Design's Lookout fixed blade, Vero's Axum comes with a custom-fitted Kydex sheath that features a titanium pocket clip design with a super tight opening that actually allows the sheath to remain squarely in place when the knife is being drawn. And while it doesn't actually serve any purpose, we really like that Vero opted to keep the square fuller notch at the base of the Axum's blade. This detail is found across Vero's entire catalog and is normally used to flick the blade open on its folding knives, but in this case is merely an aesthetic detail, not unlike how many Spyderco fixed blade designs retain their folding knives thumbhole opener. Our only real issue with this knife is that it's definitely on the larger side for daily carrying. At 8.1 inches, it's for sure a big knife, but not too big for EDC, as it's smaller than a Spyderco PM2 and only around half an inch bigger than a Benchmade bug out. It's not quite as pocketable as some of the other more compact options we tested, but it offers a bit more utility, which really makes up for this. It also comes at a steep price, though we would actually argue it's justified considering the material selection and build quality, and that's not even mentioning its ultra-modern minimalistic design, which is another key selling point on this knife. The Tactile Knife Company is the very epitome of a premium boutique knife brand. Operating out of the greater Dallas area, this independent operation takes immense pride in going the extra mile and really sweating the details, just like the products from its sister brand Tactile Turn, which unquestionably produces some of the finest EDC pens on the planet. Everything Tactile makes is done entirely in-house, from shaping its blades to crafting its handles to even producing the hardware. This meticulous level of attention to detail plays an enormous role in what separates it from other brands currently on the market. Tactile Knife Co.'s Dreadeye perfectly encapsulates the Texan brand's MO. Designed by Illinois' Christensen Knife Works, the Dreadeye was developed from the ground up to be a super versatile mixed-use fixed blade. Small enough to be daily carried, yet large enough to afford real utility, the knife clocks in at a middle-of-the-road 6.7 inches overall. Pieced together using custom titanium hardware that's made entirely in-house, the knife boasts a 0.12-inch thick, full-tang construction forged in either CPM MagnaCut or CPM 3V. Sporting a Tonto profile, the knife also comes outfitted with a super grippy set of contoured and textured Richlite scales. The very bottom of the scales also have a small notch taken out of them so that a lanyard hole at the base of the tang can be accessed. With a handle that measures just under 4 inches, the Dreadeye allows you to just barely get a full 4-finger grip. Add to that its index finger groove and textured machining, and the thing enables you to get an excellent grasp despite measuring less than 6 3/4 inches long. The spine of the blade could definitely benefit from some jimping, but as a whole it still offers pretty good grip. The knife is also just long enough to handle hard use. Backed by a lifetime warranty, the knife ships with the buyer's choice of either a leather or Boltron sheath with a tech lock system, the latter of which ships with an ulti-clip, which is a nice touch. When we think of legitimately competent daily carry fixed blades, this is exactly the type of thing that comes to mind. So, there you go. Those are what we consider to be the best fixed blade knives currently out there for everyday carry. As always, thanks for watching, be sure to check back next week for another new video, and stay safe and stay sharp.